Are we rolling yet?
Yes.
It's not going, is it? Are we on? Oh. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so we'll call this meeting to order, and Tanya, can you do a roll call?
Ani Aden, Sihama Mehdi, Jennifer Truska, Mikal Pauling Normadin,
Here.
Deb White. Here. Rachel Stone. Here. Zihad Garua.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a land acknowledgement. We, the Moorhead Human Rights Commission, collectively and with gratitude acknowledge the sacred land of the city of Moorhead is built on. We acknowledge the people who reside here for generations and recognize that the spirit of Dakota, Ojibwe, and Métis and all indigenous communities permeates this land. The contribution of the indigenous people shall not be forgotten, nor will the success that is achieved by the people of the land. We will continue to educate, advocate, honor, and unite for the indigenous people of this land. The next item on the agenda, we will look over well, we're going to lump them together. Look over the agenda, the meeting agenda for November 16th, 2022, and also review the minutes from October 19th, 2022. And look for approval of those two.
I'll move to approve with the, I messaged our staff member with one change to the minutes. And other than that, I would move to approve.
Right, to
Yep.
amend Rachel Stone
Yes.
was present.
Yep.
Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda and the minutes are approved. Next, we can move on to our guest speaker.
Hi, thank you. I'm Ken Foster, and I'm a professor at Concordia College, and also I'm here representing our network-style group called Resilient Moorhead. And so we're here today I'm here with Karen Pfeiffer, a colleague of mine, to give a briefing on the work that we've been doing as it relates to social equity. So first, a little bit about Resilient Moorhead. This is a network of organizations across Moorhead from all different sectors that have come together several years ago at the initiative of Concordia, come together to try to see how we can work together to promote collaborative approaches to problems that we face in the community. And so as part of this, we have focused on developing the qualities that enable a community like ours to be resilient. And that, of course, includes quality of equity, where all people are able to be heard and to bring their talents to bear on problems that we face. So we've been working to ensure that we know and we can start to put into place actions to make our community a place full of collaboration, full of trust, and full of commitment to the good of the community. And so as part of this, early on we recognized that advancing social and racial equity was really at the core of what any resilient community needs to do. And so I do acknowledge here that Deb White and Connie have been instrumental in the work we've done as members of Resilient Moorhead from the very beginning. And also mention that Dan Molly, city manager, has also been very involved in this work of Resilient Moorhead. And all three of you have been involved with the social and racial equity work. So in 2019, we created a bunch of working groups in Resilient Moorhead, and one of them was called Social Equity and Governance. And we started to think about what we would do in this space. With the killing of George Floyd and all the attention that was given there, we really decided we need to figure out how can we get beyond just talking and actually doing things. And so in 2021, we as a group, Resilient Moorhead, decided to put a special focus on social equity. And as part of that, we commissioned Ubuntu Consulting, Leticia Mazzaro-Hellerud's group, to do an in-depth study. And we know there have been studies done in the past in Moorhead about what people of color, what underrepresented groups feel. We wanted this to be different in the sense that we wanted this study to go out broadly and to look at a wide variety of people and groups and hear from them and get their voices and document their voices. Also, what we wanted to be different was that we didn't want a report to be generated and then we just look at it and we lament the problems but then don't do anything. And so we very consciously tried to tie this fact-finding with the report with action. And so in 2022, following the completion of that study of listening groups and focus groups, and following the production of the report, we hired Karen Pfeiffer from Creating Community Consulting to take the next step and to take that report and to continue to widen the circle of people who are involved and to try to see how we move from this report to specific actions that we'll take. And so Karen launched with her colleagues Inclusive Moorhead, which is a project of Resilient Moorhead. And I just want to make one note about the study. So we have this report that documents the voices of people who were part of her listening groups. We did not want to release the study to the public without first understanding fully what the study says, and then most crucially, coming up with action steps that we're going to take. And so that report will be released soon, but when it's released, it will be released with a report on here's the steps we have done in response to the report. Here's the actions that we're undertaking. So that will be coming soon. So I'll just show you the different groups that are involved with this report. There were 9 different groups of underrepresented, historically marginalized populations who were invited to participate in this. And there were 23 listening sessions held with a total of 114 participants. So rich data was collected there. So the key findings, I'm not going to go over these, but I wanted to put them here so they're in the minutes for you to see in the future. Because a lot of the concerns that were raised are not surprising to any of us. And so one of the things is that we didn't expect to uncover a lot of new information, but we wanted to document this in a very methodical way so then we could use it. One of the things we did put a special twist on this, and this Deb White played an instrumental role in this, is to focus on civic engagement. How do people from these populations and communities feel about government, feel about their ability to be involved in government and in the public sphere? I mean, we heard a lot that people didn't feel like their voice mattered or didn't feel like they knew how to participate. But we also heard a lot of interest in participating. And I highlight a quote up there at the top which says, "Participants did not trust that the collected data will change anything from their current situation. They repeatedly mentioned that many similar initiatives have been done before, but nothing has changed." And this, of course, is the trap that we all fall into. And so we at Resilient Moorhead are committed to making sure that this doesn't just become another report. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to come before you so that we could have your collaboration, partnership, and support in making sure that we actually go to concrete actions after this. So there's another slide here with some opportunities. I'll just say that participants overwhelmingly wanted to be more interested. It's not that people are just sitting around and they don't care. They want to be involved, but they don't know how, or the structures are not set up to facilitate their involvement. There was a lot of interest in trust, transparency, education, and a lot of ideas about opportunities. In the report, there were recommendations that were given by Ubuntu Consulting that, again, are things that are good practice across the board, and so I'll leave those for you to look at as we go forward. I do want to turn it to Karen Pfeiffer now of Creating Community Consulting, and she'll talk about the work that's been done since the production of the report and where we're going from here.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I am Karen. It's so great to be here. And just a little bit, as we entered into this space, we recognized the importance of people in leadership in creating change. And so just a little bit about myself, briefly before we go into this, is that I have about 86% of my life has been in poverty. I have experience with domestic violence, homelessness, also have been 3 years in recovery. And we also have a co-leader in this work, Jennifer Aranda, who could not be here tonight, but she identifies as a person of color. And we strongly believe that this work needs to be co-led by people who understand and have lived experience. And so that's one of the things that we've really focused on, is how we do this work needs to be not just led by people that have experience, but also by the people most impacted. And so the approach when we came out with the recommendations, it was really important to take a step back and figure out how we could include people, not just saying what the problems were or giving a recommendation, but actually creating solutions. And so we held a launch event in September that invited about 60 people from the community to come together. And we met at Gooseberry Park and went through and said, here's 4 of the key drivers that really build inclusivity. And what is it that you think we need to do with that? What would it look like? And really getting that community engagement. We also provided a space for childcare support, because what we heard from the study is that our not only places don't feel safe, but also it's not family friendly. And so making sure that whenever we're gathering, we're providing support so that people can come with their families and feel comfortable and safe. And so we've went through this process this year of bringing more people into the conversation, ensuring that it is completely developed by people experiencing the issue more than anything. And so we came up with this set of strategies, and really they're about relationship building, policy process, formal representation, and community education. We know that change happens at the speed of trust, and trust is built between people that have relationships. And so in order to really build capacity, we need to focus on how we can diversify our relationships and bring people together, including formal representatives with people in our communities. We know that we have work to do in our businesses and organizations, that's where racism exists and discrimination, and so we need to come up with a plan to address it. We need to look at where formal decision-making takes place. That could be both elected officials and non-elected, but where decisions are taking place and how we can diversify that. And also community education to reinforce all the work that we're doing along with helping the community understand why it's important. So what have we actually done to move to action? So there's 2 things happening. We're continuing to work with this group. On the 20th, we're going to have our final planning session that really is moving to SMARTY goals, so that in 2023 we can release a full launch of all the different activities around those 4 key drivers. In the meantime, we've already moved into action a few different initiatives. Number 1, we're working on a collaborative partnership with the Romkey Park redevelopment. And this is really about addressing some of the inequities in that area related to people of color that they experience. We identified that childcare access, specifically multicultural, is a barrier. We understand that there's a need for community space in that neighborhood, and also that affordable housing is an issue. And so we are doing community canvassing and listening sessions with some of the local churches in that neighborhood, specifically with CAP LP, with people that are on affordable housing assistance and people who live there, to really understand what they want, what they need, and how we can provide it in that new building space that will be on the south side of Romkey Park. And we're also working with the Lotus Center and the REC, which is the Recovery Engaged Communities, to do a gap analysis. And so going out and meeting with people in recovery to understand what are the barriers and what are the opportunities that exist to build a recovery village. This has been done in other communities. It's highly successful. But in order to do it here, we really need the information from people in recovery or experiencing substance use firsthand. So we're doing that work right now. We actually volunteered, a bunch of us did, our time to come together and apply for a grant. Clay County will be the host, but all of the funding for that grant would be redistributed to organizations primarily that are led by people of color. And so part of it would go to Ubuntu Consulting, Ashara, different places, community development resources in order to implement some of the strategies that we've outlined. And then we're working on a second grant as well that's due in December. And the idea that we're proposing, that we're gonna get into more on the 20th actually, is really around the diversity, equity, and inclusion in businesses and organizations. What we hear from businesses is that they all want DEI work, but they think that it's unaffordable to pay for it themselves, or they don't know who to hire. And so one of the things that we talked about is tapping into the community resources and people we already have and creating a team that does a DEI assessment, an implementation plan, and training to reiterate and support that work, and that we would pay those people that already exist in the community that are doing this work to come together and build a leadership cohort. And each year we would add additional people to that, and they would get mentored by the people from the year before. So we can build capacity, and because it's grant funded, it would also reduce the cost to businesses, and so that we could do outreach. We also are including funding for community healing and would be working with Ubuntu and a few people, Sarah Dixon Hackey, Ibtisam, and Leticia on that. And so really thinking about how do we help improve community healing, because that really needs to be integrated in all the work that we do as well. Funds would also support inclusive Moorhead events. People have identified that if we can come together and share locations that are doing inclusive work well, and we can celebrate and have food and learn about different cultures and bring people together, and then talk about how are we making progress, where are we getting stuck, where are we celebrating, and keep moving this forward, that would be, that's the best way to keep moving it. And so we're committed to this. We are very hopeful about the funding and the community collaboration that's coming together, and we're hoping to just keep including more people. There's always room for improvement. And so, yeah, I think that's what I've got for you. So what questions or thoughts do you have about this work?
Well, and my question is more for the commissioners. So, you know, Connie and I've been really involved with this process. I'll come back to the mic. And it's been a great experience. And one of the great things about it is it's this big collaborative effort. And so we're looking at how we address this as a community. But one thing now is this ongoing conversation about what does this mean in terms of creating inclusive decision-making in different areas, okay? Which could be in government, it could be in education, it could be in our nonprofits. So we've been having these broad conversations, but now I think one thing that we could do as a Human Rights Commission is look at how does this apply to our local government, our city government, you know? And so while the inclusive, while the Resilient Moorhead has been looking at it community-wide, there's an opportunity here for us to take this and maybe be part of leading that conversation within the City of Moorhead government to say, okay, so we have great information from folks in the community who've been talking about their experiences and some of the barriers that they see and ways that they feel they don't have a voice, in some cases, ways they feel they do have a voice. How do we then make that next step of saying, what does an inclusive local government look like? What does a truly open, accessible local government look like, and how do we get there, you know? But I wanted to just sort of propose that to see what people thought of. Do you feel like that's something that HRC would want to get involved in, is maybe helping facilitate those conversations? And I'm just like throwing it out there, and it could be that we, or have some discussions like look at the report in more detail, have discussions within our group, and then maybe have some discussions with other boards and commissions and departments and the council. I'm not sure, but I wanted to just ask what all of you thought of, like, if you think you see the HRC having a role with that.
Can I just share a thought quick about that?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's two opportunities. I love what you're saying, Deb. And actually, that was going to be a part of my question. It was like, how can we partner? And I have two thoughts. Number one, there was a lot of information about law enforcement in the report. I think that would be really interesting to look at and be able to host conversations around, like what to do with that information, and is that something that the city would be willing to look at and like be able to support conversations around that. The second one is if we get this grant, which is a 4-year grant to do the DEI team and build that cohort, we would love to be able to work with even a department within the city to do like an assessment that will look at policy, it'll look at procedure, it'll look at many different components, and then develop an implementation plan. And the Human Rights Commission would make so much sense for that team to partner with. If there was a department even within the city that would be willing to do that. And so I'm hopeful that if we get that grant, I think the application deadline is in December. We would know by February if we get that. And if we don't, we will look for other funding to do it because we think it's a great idea. Anyway, so those are two specific things that really stuck out. So I'm curious what.
No, I think, I apologize, I'm a little hoarse, so excuse my voice.
Yeah.
I think that this work is so important. That's an excellent idea. Bringing that inclusivity to, like you said, I think the government, on a government level, is there any way that we can get access to this information and the survey and the results?
Absolutely. So we can send it to you. We're going to be, so just so you know, also the website will be built by January where the full report along with the summary and then the actions will all be available publicly. Anybody will be able to access, so we'll send it to you for sure.
Actually, I don't have any question because Deb was very involved for the project. But if you can roll a little bit and for the presentation, I want to see the pictures again.
The pictures?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you looking for your children, Connie?
Also, everyone knows now. So
Are you proud that?
This is my kid.
Because they're
Yeah.
so adorable.
They're adorable.
Look at you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for both.
So could I make a recommendation that we then, once it's made public, then the HRC, would have that as an agenda item, that we would review it and then talk about next steps of what the role of the commission could be in using that information to help facilitate some conversations about what we could do within the city.
I think that would be fair, yeah. I mean, it's hard to, it's just kind of all words right now. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know what you do and what it looks like. And so, yeah, I think that would be good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I'd like to have those and just what does that look like with details? How do we do it specifically to be strategic in the work that we do? So just kind of pinpointing what that looks like, that it can be very wide.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think the last thing I'll say on it too is I know Ken mentioned this at the beginning, is that to me it seems so important because we ask people to really share about their experiences. So the consultants that they hired, Leticia Mazzaro Hellerud and the folks that work with her, had great meetings, and folks were really open about their experiences. And I think that we owe it to them to, again, make sure that we do something with this. Again, not just have this be another report that it's on a shelf and, and then we, haven't really done anything with it, so.
How were the people that participated in the talking or the reports, how were they I mean, did they come to you, or were they select, how did this group come together with the listening sessions?
That is a great question. So my understanding, and I wasn't involved with that, but I do work a lot with Leticia. And so my understanding is they looked at census data. Maybe Ken has a better answer. But go ahead.
I think, our Resilient Moorhead group, we have people like Connie and others. And so what we did was Leticia and her team went through networks to try to find who are the connectors with these groups and populations.
Okay.
So I
and then
remember,
invitation.
sorry if I can interrupt. So Leticia, she goes to mostly non-profit organizations' office and let them know that they're going to have that conversation. And I was almost every conversation that she's going to have for the community. And Leticia was very, making them uncomfortable and, getting their questions, whatever they try to hide. And to make sure that they are not hiding nothing and everything is being shared. So I remember the conversation, and also I will say that a lot of the community members was being very honest and saying whatever they want to share on her. So she reached out to the organizations, make sure that they can have that space and ask if everyone is willing to participate, and that's how we make the conversation out.
The idea was to have trusted community members
Yeah.
would be involved.
I'd actually just add a comment. I worked for Moorhead Public Housing prior to the city, and I worked with Leticia on setting up listening groups at both Sharpview, which is our low-income housing for seniors, and the high rise here in Moorhead. So it was very well brought out, and included.
As Karen had mentioned, the whole approach is that, certainly I'm not the one to lead these kinds of things. And so the whole approach is to empower others to lead. So I think for this, just on the question of the Human Rights Commission, I think it's an opportunity that's coming up very quickly for the Human Rights Commission to exercise its role, more fully to help move the ship, in a direction. And there's the good thing is that we have Resilient Moorhead, which is 21 organizations and units of organizations that have all committed to this work of inclusive Moorhead. And so we're looking forward to the aspiration to see organizations across Moorhead, including the city, including Concordia, others kind of working together to see how can we embrace this inclusive decision-making and equity as a core value for us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Before you go, do you want to mention the event on Sunday?
Sure. So on Sunday at the Moorhead Presbyterian Church, just on the south side of 94 and 75, we're going to have an inclusive Moorhead planning event. So the first hour, it starts at 3:30. The first hour is food, celebration, and learning about the inclusive work that they're doing there. They have about 10 different groups, including a recovery center within their church building. And then from 4:30 to 6:30, we'll be doing the SMART goal planning. So really working on the implementation of moving this forward so that in January we can fully launch. So anybody is invited. It's fun. You'll get some good German cooked sausage from my house. Along with some other things. So, and we will have Wild About Play there to support children. So she's there to play with all the kids. So the kids have entertainment while the adults have fun and work. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we don't have any citizens to be heard, it looks like. Law enforcement, Chris wasn't able to make it. Regular business, we have the Human Rights Award nominations, but I think we're going to discuss how to, we had a couple of late ones come in, so we're going to figure out how to do that, right? Okay, we might have to do a meeting.
Yes, so should we just talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah, so I know, so we've had a couple of applications that came in today and that we haven't had a chance to read, and we have several commissioners that aren't here. And we also, at our city council meeting last night, I in my council member report, reported that the deadline was last night, but another council member said that it was today. So there's a chance, I'm not sure where she got that information, but there's a chance that there may be people that heard that or that were told that the deadline is today. So we were wondering if we should postpone voting on yes, in which case then we would have to call a special meeting. Yes. Could we, does it look like we could do that in 2 weeks maybe?
I think so.
That will give us a chance still to prepare to.
Great. 'Cause Jen and Siham are they're the committee for the awards, and they're not even here.
Neither
so-
of them are here tonight.
And haven't reviewed
Yes.
several of the applications, so I feel like that we should postpone it for 2 weeks. And then, Tanya, you're going to check to see what we need to do?
Yep, I'll look and
Okay.
see what we need to do to do that.
Perfect.
So-
In which case, should we be clear? So the deadline
Tonight.
tonight, okay. Yes. So even though
Deadline,
we're reviewing them in
tonight.
2 weeks, but there we will not be extending
Right.
the deadline
Right.
again.
Exactly,
And-
because we want to be able to present the awards at the council meeting.
Yes, so that,
For 12.
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so tonight's the deadline. We'll figure out how to do a special meeting, 2 weeks, and review and vote. Done. Okay, perfect. Subcommittee reports. I think it's just you and me. I don't remember.
Sure. And actually, I saw that you had the Human Rights Awards event on there update.
I didn't.
Oh.
It was on, I think we were just talking about,
So so that'll occur before the council meeting on December 12th.
Yeah.
And then commissioners can come and the award winners, their family and friends will be able to attend.
yes.
I can give a report on ours and about I can also talk about Pangea.
Perfect.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so our subcommittee met. I'm just going to pull up our report. Really, some of these things we may have to follow up. We're close to having our final calendar ready for next year. And so really the only things left, and Siham isn't here tonight, but we had her down. She was going to work on a speaker for March on freedom of religious expression. And so we'll have to follow up with her. And then, Tanya, did you have a suggestion for fair housing? That was for April.
Right, I don't have that yet,
Okay.
but I'm working on that.
And those were the only two. And so I also, I guess, I was going to ask our chair, do we wait until we have those pinned down, or do we could, at our next meeting, we could approve it and then work on finding the speakers, or?
I think that would be good. So at the next meeting, we can approve it and then just fill in and just have,
Okay,
yeah. I think that's okay.
all right. And then the only other thing that we were talking about, publicizing our speakers. And so I think, Tanya, we just wanted to meet with you to talk, work on creating a Facebook event template so that then every month, if we have a standard Facebook event that would have information about HRC, but then we insert the information about that month's speaker. And then if Tanya would be able to update that, but then it would be our responsibility to really share it and, more widely so that we could work at getting the word out about our speakers that we have coming every month. So we can just talk with you about that, about finding a time to work on it. And Marissa had we had a flyer that we'd used before, and Marissa Allering was going to share that, and we might be able to use some of that in the template for the Facebook event. And really, unless anybody thought of any other things, but we just, we were going back and forth, and I thought a Facebook event would be better, because if you just put it in the feed, then it will get lost,
Yep, it
you
gets
know?
lost.
But if we have an event, then we can share the event every month about whatever speaker we're having. So, yeah. Okay, I think that's all I had for our subcommittee report. And then I also shared information about Pangea. And I wanted to, all of you should have an email about that, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about it. So we could still use volunteers in a few spots. And so if you haven't volunteered but you want to, we could use a second person from 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and 1 to 2. But we've got at least one person all day, but if there were two, that allows one person to always be in the hospitality room, and then the other person can occasionally also go around and give out. One of the things they'd like us to do would be not just keep the hospitality room replenished, but also go around to the vendors and give out some bottled water and some snacks, and just make sure that they have things and thank them for being there for the event. So 2 would be nice, but we could also get by with 1. And so if you can, Tanya sent it out to the council members again to see if a couple of them were interested in volunteering. And then I'm going to be picking up the supplies for it, and I'll get everything over. And Mikkel, I know you're the first person that's there in the morning, so I'll meet you there, and we'll work on getting.
Here?
It is. It's right
Okay.
here down the hall. Yes.
Okay, I'm like, where's?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
perfect.
and the whole building will be, Pangea will be all throughout the building.
Okay.
And then the hospitality room, it's a little different than in the past because this is where they're combining, just so you know, so the volunteers know, they're combining the dressing room and the hospitality room in one, but it will be marked off, so you won't be where people are changing.
Oh, perfect.
But they have limited space, so it'll be, you have a note from Maureen Kelly Jonasson in your email. In the message with the instructions, there's a message from Maureen explaining all of that and where to park and everything.
It's in this packet too. I printed
Okay,
it
yep,
out
so
here.
just
Yep.
make sure you read that ahead of
Yep.
time. And so basically our job will be, we'll get things set up, we'll clean things up at the end, and in between, if you're in the hospitality room, it's greeting people as they come in. So the hospitality room is for the people that are performing and otherwise working at Pangea. And so this is something that HRC has done for years. Delray Williams started it years ago, and it's just a nice thing that we've been asked to continue to do. So if you're in the hospitality room, it'll be, making coffee and hot chocolate, keeping the water hot for hot chocolate and tea. Because it'll also be, there's people that'll be working outside to direct traffic, and so they come in to warm up in the hospitality room. So if you keep the warm drinks, and there'll be snacks out there, and then, as I said, and then the other thing would be occasionally just walk around, and I'll get some grab-and-go snacks, like, things that are like granola bars and mixed nuts or things like that, that you could just walk around with a basket with some water, bottled water and snacks, and see if anybody wants anything like that. So, but we'll get everything set up. I'll come in the morning and we'll get everything set up, and then we just do that throughout the day. And it's nice if we can have it where nobody's there for too long, then you get to go out and enjoy yourself at Pangea. And then Maureen did ask if somebody from HRC would speak briefly, and so I sent it to you and Siham, and Siham said she would, but
Yep.
you also could both do it if you want to. So that'll be at 11:55.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yep. Anything else?
So maybe this was our next meeting, but here I'm seeing November participant in Benchia speakers, maybe a representative from Afro-American Development Association.
What are you?
That's next year in
yeah,
November.
next year.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yes,
Are
we've
you
got you
looking at
down.
this?
We are thinking ahead. We
Oh,
want
yeah,
you,
this is for the calendar for next year.
we've got you for November of 2023.
Oh,
So
okay.
put it on your calendar,
This
Connie.
is so good.
Okay, are there any other, well, I lost my spot. Okay. Reports, announcements, upcoming events, we kind of covered that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I do have one thing that it's kind of related to what we were talking about with our guest speakers, and also looping back to something that we did this time last year. So in the beginning of the year is when the council will appoint people to boards and commissions. And one of the things last year that we did is we made a recommendation just encouraging them to look at how well our boards and commissions represent our community. And so I wondered if we wanted to do that again. So last year I brought some data in just showing the breakdown of boards and commissions. And then we created a recommendation. If that's something that we'd like to do again, we
Yes.
could. Okay.
I think so.
Would you like to do that so I could probably would want to work with Tanya on that, but try to get as much demographic information about our current makeup of boards and commissions. And it's, we don't have everything, but we kind of looked at race, ethnicity,
Right.
gender,
Yep.
things like that, and then use that as a basis to create the recommendations. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That'd be good.
So we could have that on our December agenda, and
Yes.
I'll make sure I bring stuff for it.
Okay, perfect. Anything else? New business? No? All right, then I guess we can adjourn until 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So
All right,
for the other meeting, we'll just know from email, right? The one that we're gonna decide for the Tanya. Okay, sounds good.
So hopefully, so we're planning on, I want to get it in my calendar right now. So that's the 30th? Because then I got nervous. I'm like, that's not the day before Thanksgiving, but no, Thanksgiving's the week before. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I just pulled up to like their, on requesting a special meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, special meetings may be called by the chair with notice to all commission members. The chair must call a special meeting at the request of 2 commission members. Okay, perfect.
We need it official? Do we need to make it more official? So,
Yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
So we'll meet in 2 weeks?
send out, if you can just send out an email to
Yep, it says it needs to be posted 3 days in advance, so I can
Yeah,
get
it has
that
to be